Tonight, Damian Wayne shows us just how much he loves cute furry little animals. Gotham is now home to a street gang full of mythical creature/human hybrids. And the most important question of all is asked, what in the hell is a tanga? All that and more on the not-so-new 52. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 6 of the Not So New 52. I am your host and hey, I got noticed. This is a collaborative effort. We all collectively got noticed, but I personally got noticed more. Last week I tweeted out the link to episode 5. I said, hey, it's up. Check it out. And that tweet got liked by none other than comic book writer Sterling Gates. Round of applause, everybody. Sterling Gates. If you don't know what Sterling Gates writes in regard to this show, it's Hawk and Dove. Hawk and Dove, which I have done nothing but praise immensely. Don't go back and double check that. It's been nothing but praise. 10s across the board. So thank you, Mr. Sterling Gates. I hope I can continue to give you nothing but 10s. Moving on to this week. This week is October 12th, 2011. And we are 15 comics to cover. 13 regular and 2 brand new miniseries. They are as follows. Number 2 issues for Batman and Robin, Batgirl, Batwoman, Superboy, Green Lantern, Mr. Terrific, Deathstroke, Grifter, Suicide Squad, Legion Lost, Demon Knights, Frankenstein, Agent of S.H.A.D.E, and Resurrection Man. And our 2 brand new miniseries are issue 1 of My Greatest Adventure and issue 1 of The S.H.A.D.E. My Greatest Adventure, just on a quick tangent, is the first one that we're doing that wasn't collected in a trade format. I actually have to read this in floppies, which, let me tell you, I have been spoiled by the trade's lack of ads, because the first thing I notice when I open this up is, oh, there's so many ads in comic books, aren't there? But alas, it's what you have to get for $3.99. So yeah, it's going to be a long episode probably, but let's just jump right into it with issue number 2 of Batman and Robin. Batman and Robin number 2, written by Peter J. Tomasi, art by Patrick Gleason. Last issue we left off, Damian just got grounded because he can't control himself out on the battlefield, and the killer currently known as Nobody just murdered Batman of Moscow. This issue picks up. Damian is in a training room. Batman and Alfred are watching him, and Batman's like, he's really, really good at this. And that makes me kind of sad because we get a flashback to his life where him and Talia al Ghul hooked up. Talia somehow put Damian in like a test tube instead of it being a natural pregnancy. I'm still a little unsure on Damian's entire backstory. Damian was trained as an assassin. Like, even he looks like 3 years old and he's already killing people. Finally, he meets up with Batman. He becomes Robin, and blah blah blah. And Batman's whole thing is like, it's in his nature to be a killer. So I'm hoping that I can overcome that with nurture. Because, Batman's the nurturing type, what with all the kids I've gotten involved in this war against crime. And Alfred's like, you've tried your best, you've been a good moral compass, like, don't worry about it. And he's like, no, Alfred, you don't understand. I'm actually afraid of dying now because I'll leave my son fatherless. So what does that say about my mission? So then Batman comes up to him and he's like, hey, that arms shipment that we've been looking at has finally come in. Why don't you get dressed? So they go out, they find the arms shipment, they beat up all the guys. And notably, Batman sees that Damian is holding back, like not using as much excessive force as he could be. And they string up the guys from a lamppost, and Batman's like, hey, I noticed that you weren't actively killing them. That's commendable. Okay. And then they just leave the guys hanging there. They actually stick with the guys for a second, and they're like, let's cut ourselves out. We got get the knife ready. And as they're sitting there, like, trying to get their knife, the killer currently known as Nobody comes up and slits their throats and says, like, well, don't have to worry about that. Cut back to Damien training. Alfred's like, okay, you said you said he did a good job. What were your exact words? And Batman's like, I said it was commendable. That's good, right? And Alfred's like, you didn't actually say you were proud of him? Or anything like that? And he's like, commendable's good. And Alfred just shakes his head and walks off. Bruce does come up to Damien and he's like, hey, good work on the field tonight, son. And he's like, actually, he doesn't even say son. That's too much. So Damien's like, I know. Batman walks off, tells Damien to get some sleep. And then Damien snatches a bat out of midair. Like, he just grabs it and crushes it in his hand, looks at it, and throws it down into one of the cavernous abysses in the Batcave. And Alfred saw all of this, and he's like, oh, no. So you have a small boy who's unable to deal with small animals that well. What do? You get him a dog. So Batman went out and he got himself a Great Dane. We have yet to get a name on him, but as he's out at the kennel looking at this majestic-looking dog, he's approached by a shadowy figure who's totally not Nobody. Actually, I'm pretty sure they weren't even hiding it. I think we're supposed to know this is Nobody. But his name is Morgan. They both trained with Henry Ducard back during Batman's training days. And basically Morgan's like, dude, you made an international team of Batmen. You've clearly forgotten the clarity of your mission here. And he's like, Morgan, this is my mission. This isn't yours at all. And he's like, okay, well, consider this an intervention. And he presses a big red button and an explosion goes off behind Bruce. It's exploding a barrel of candy. I don't quite get that part, but in the hubbub, he gets away, and Bruce is left standing wistfully out at the sunset of, oh no, my past has caught up with me yet again. I like it. It's good. It's definitely, it's setting up the Batman and Robin. That's the primary focus of this, of how are those two getting along? How does Batman, have a son, an actual son, now that we're in the post-Golden Age where he's just like, that's right, Dick Grayson, you're fantastic. I liked it. I think it was good. Art-wise, I know it's just a tone thing they're going for, but, like, sometimes the people are just so heavy on the inks that, like, they look unnatural, especially Talia for some reason. I can't put my finger on why, but something's not right with her. But it's just 2 panels. It's not anything that bad. The fight scenes are fantastic. I have no problem with that. Overall, I'd say I'll give it a 7. It's fine. It's a good read. It's solid. I definitely like what they're setting up here. I like how Damien is not actually getting better. He's just masking it. He's just hiding it from his father because, he's crushing small animals. That's just a sociopath. So no, I'll give this a 7. Still looking forward to where it's going every month. So yeah, Batman and Robin. Batgirl number 2, written by Gail Simone, art by Ardian Syaf. So we last left off, Mirror had just killed this dude who I guess was supposed to have died, and Batgirl did nothing about it because she froze up because he pointed a gun at her. Pick up literally exactly where we left off, if not even a quarter second earlier, and Mirror's like, okay, well, I'm done here, goodbye. He flees out the building. Batgirl's like, oh, damn it, and she starts giving chase. Police officer tells her, hey, stay where you are. You froze up or whatever. Somehow that's a crime. She's like, nope, sorry, gotta go. Chases after the guy, and she just reminisces on like, man, I totally froze up. I suck. I guess I'm still not completely over my whole getting shot thing, but that's not going to stop me from taking this guy down. So she kicks the guy from behind, flying over rooftops, knocks him down. He's like, oh, no, I'm not supposed to die like this. And she's like, are you kidding? You just, like, you were all menacing back there. Now you're like this? Fine, whatever, give me your hand. And he's like, yoink, tries throwing her off the building. She uses her bat cable. I'm forgetting the word. Grappling hook. That's the one. Slams into a car and for some, like, a cab driver's pissed off that she hit her car, but she sees Mira getting away. Cut back to the hospital. The cop, I think we have a name, but I don't. Detective McKenna, that's it. Detective McKenna is trying to get out to chase after Mira, and Gordon shows up, and he's like, hey, sit down, get yourself checked out, and then take some time off because your partner was just killed in front of you. Like, okay, got it? That's your orders. And then McKenna's like, all right, fine, I guess. I'm not going to be happy about it, though. By the way, Batgirl's back. And Gordon, like, freezes up, like, oh, my God. So, maybe he knows? I don't know. Cut to, Mira was heading towards a graveyard. Batgirl arrives, meets him there. They have a little banter back and forth before they start fighting, and she's just getting wailed on. And then Mira does his thing where he opens up his jacket, and you see the inside of his cape is full of mirrors. And he's like, do you see it, Batgirl? Do you see your true face? And she's like, oh, you're actually crazy. Okay, all right, well, I can't beat you physically, so maybe I can just out-agility you. So, go for another punch and whatever. She manages to snag his list, the list of names of people that he is destined to kill or whatever, who are destined to die. And she doesn't even, like, keep it or read it. She just grabs the paper and he's like, look what I got. And Mira just walks up and goes, give me that. That's mine. You don't get to read that. And then they hear sirens in the distance. And in literally not even a panel, it goes from the swiping motion to he's gone and Batgirl's collapsed on one of the graves. Kind of a lot happened in between there. And it's just explained during narration boxes. So anyway, somehow she manages to stumble her way home, get out of her costume. Her roommate is there, gets her all bandaged up, and was like, okay, here's the thing. I'm not going to deal with any sort of, like, abusive boyfriends and stuff like that, so you tell me right now who did this to you, and we're going to take care of that together right now. And she's like, no, nothing like that. I have a secret, and I'd rather not tell you. And Roommate's like, cool, I can accept that. So, by the way, she does have a name now. I mentioned last time she didn't have a name. Alicia Yo. Sure to be a mainstay character for years. Cut to Barbara's on a date the next day with her therapist, her physical therapist, I think, but possibly still just her therapist. And they're just talking, and literally they're having just a therapy session here, where he's like, well, how does it feel to get back the use of your legs, Barbara? And she's like, well, it feels like a miracle. Well, why should a miracle happen to me? I've never had anything. This is not a date. This is a therapy session. And I don't know why they're dating. But anyway, he gives her a kiss, and then she's off to do Batgirl stuff. She actually goes to the library, does some research, based off of a couple things that the mirror said, something about burning, that graveyard, some other stuff like that. She managed to piece together that he probably had some sort of tragic incident. His family's probably buried in the graveyard, and it had to do with fire. So she puts all that in the computer and somehow gets out a federal agent who was the sole survivor of a just terrible, terrible car accident. Tracks down where the guy lives, breaks into his house, and there's just guns and knives and hatchets and everything. He's like, all right, so I found the right place. Then a giant wall-sized TV turns on. He's like, hey, Batgirl, I was expecting you. So yes, you figured out who I was. My whole family burned right before my eyes, and I thought, why was I the one who survived? I should be dead. Therefore, my mission is to kill all the people who should also be dead. For instance, take this guy. He fell on the train tracks, and some dude rescued him. But he should be dead. Luckily, he still rides that train, so I've put a bomb on that train, and it's going to kill him, and I guess everybody else on board, but whatever. And that's where we leave off with him saying, like, oh, you'll learn how important my mission is, Batgirl. I don't hate it. I know when I pause like that, it feels like I'm contemplating my hate. I don't hate it. It just feels like a lot all packed into one issue. And it isn't really. It's a decent amount of just normal, like, stuff. But the fact that we're switching scenes, like, every page it just feels like a lot, It feels very fast-paced. I'm still getting everything. It's not like it's skipping over anything, except for that part where they leave the graveyard, because that just happened. But no, like, we're introduced to the therapist dating angle. We're introduced to his entire backstory. We're introduced to just a bunch of extra stuff. And I'm going to give it a 6.5 because it is competently done. It just feels like a bit much. Art-wise is fine. I have no complaints there. Mirror's just still kind of a silly villain, but they at least gave him a good backstory, so I'm okay with that. But yeah, no, 6.5. It's fine. He just seems a bit try-hard for me. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But yeah, 6.5. Batwoman number 2, written by J.H. Williams III and W. Haden Blackman, art also by J.H. Williams III. Last left off, Batwoman had just turned down her father in getting back into her mission with him. I don't know. And then Batman showed up and had an offer for Batwoman. This issue opens up with a fight scene in a casino. I think they're all villains because they're all wearing domino masks, but I gotta tell you, I don't know who they are, what they did, or anything like that, and we don't get an explanation, so it's just a casino fight. Batwoman and Pleb are both arguing with each other, and basically Pleb's like, dude, Batman offered you to be in Batman Inc. You should take that. And she's like, I don't know, it seems kind of dumb. That doesn't really seem like me. Also, taking orders from Batman, that seems weird. So, yeah, no. And then she's like, well, all right, well, you know, your father's going to keep calling you. And that woman just tells Pleb straight up, like, look, you either got to choose between my dad or me because that ship's going to sail way sooner than you think. They took out all the guys, by the way. I feel like that's pretty obvious. Cut to the park where some of the abductions have been happening throughout the story. And Detective Maggie Sawyer is there. And a big Jeep drives up, and out gets DEO, whatever, Chase, who basically just wants to talk to Maggie Sawyer. And she's like, hey, hi, I'm not here for all of this abduction stuff. I really want Batwoman. And also, you're pretty much one of the very few people that I think could be Batwoman based off of, you know, you're inside the police force, so you have an inside track, you're very athletic, you just recently came to Gotham pretty much at the same time she did, so I think you're Batwoman, but if you have any reason to make me not think that, here's my card. And Sawyer's like, okay, that was weird. Cut to a church where they're having a funeral for, I assume, one of the abducted girls. A little boy is helping one of the nuns put stuff away afterwards, and the baptism altar starts leaking, and the weeping woman, La Llorona, comes out and either kidnaps or drowns the boy. It's not entirely clear right up front. Cut to a bar. Batwoman is on a date with Maggie Sawyer, and she's just staring at the card that Chase gave her, and they just get into a talk, and she's like, look, how about instead of our first date, let's pretend this is like our 10th date, and that way you can unload on me whatever's on your mind. So they start talking, and, you know, they're flirting like crazy. And then she brings up that, like, oh, they think I know Batwoman. She's like, oh, do you? He's like, I mean, no, but she's interfering with my case, so I would have brought her in myself. And she's like, oh, you mean the case about the abducted children? And at that point, Sawyer gets a little bit cold and was like, let's get out of here. So they go back to Sawyer's place, and Sawyer invites Batwoman up. I need to use her name. Kate invites Kate up, and Kate's like, I'd love to, but, you know, got some stuff to do, but really did have a fun time. Let's go out again. So then, of course, Sawyer gets a buzz, and Kate goes all Batwoman. Okay, this sequence. We go to, like, a park or something, some outdoors area, and a bunch of what I can only say are mythical creatures are dead in this gang war with some random gang that we don't actually know who it is. And I say mythical creatures because they are actually like genetically changed werebeasts. So the one they show on the page here is like there's a crab man and there's a minotaur. And this is just normal for Gotham, apparently. But they get in this fight with this gang, and they recognize that there's a hand present that doesn't belong to any of the victims they have here. So Chase is there, and she asks Maggie, like, hey, what do you think happened? And she walks through the whole setup of how, like, there was this gang war. The gang was coming after these guys. They were ambushed by the Werebeast gang. But then the first gang had a meta on their side that just tore apart the Werebeast, and whoever this hand belonged to was taken, like, because they were the original target. And Chase is like, yeah, all right, seems that's how we see it too. And Kate's like, good job, did great. So then we have Batwoman meeting up with Batman, and basically is like, I haven't decided yet. I might join. Hold your horses. I just need some information on who Chase is. And Batman's like, okay, Chase is, she's fueled not by a sense of duty against costume heroes. She really hates us. And she will literally interrogate every woman in Gotham to find you. So just stay on the lookout there. So then Batwoman infiltrates the GCPD and finds some clues as to where the La Llorona may have started, which was a boathouse. Maggie Sawyer sees her breaking into evidence lockers and calls up Chase and was like, hey, I know where she's going. Batwoman's going to the boathouse. And then the issue ends with Batwoman arriving at the boathouse, and then I'm sure it's supposed to be La Llorona, but like it just seems like the tide comes in all of a sudden, because the last page is just her struggling like to stay up in the water. But the panel right beforehand is her just knee high in water, and then just so I don't know, not so much of a cliffhanger as much as it just feels like, okay, and on the next page, yeah, it just continues. So anyway, it's a fine issue. I cannot express how well panel layouts and art is done. The scene where she's laying down what happened in the crime scene, super well told, because it's just one panel, but it's broken up into multiple different sections. Very well done. The art's fantastic. I am down with the writing, because there's like multiple sides going against each other here. It's a very well thought out story. I don't think the Weeping Woman thing is actually going to be all that important, really. It seems to me like the central focus is like, all right, let's deal with Batwoman, which I'm fine with in a first arc. That's definitely something I'm good with, making the book about the character. So yeah, I'm gonna give this a 7.5. It's very good. I would definitely say check it out. It's got a good job developing the characters and everything. It just does seem like the La Llorona is just going to be a backseat sort of thing. But again, not a bad thing to do. Superboy number 2, written by Scott Lobdell, art by R.B. Silva. We last left off. Superboy was being inscripted by scary dude from nowhere to fight against the Teen Titans. And that was, I guess, the cliffhanger. And then this issue just doesn't deal with that. We open up on a flashback back to Superboy's birth just after he had, murdered everybody. He's being cradled by the scientist who's, I'm going to call her Red, because that's what other people call her, but she doesn't actually have a name yet, I don't think. So Dr. Red is like, oh, Superboy, you're not so bad. You're okay. It's all going to be all right. And some guards come up who I guess managed to survive. And they're like, no, okay, so that thing just killed like every scientist here. We're going to go ahead and take care of him. And she's like, no, not my baby boy. No, he was just acting out of instinct. Don't worry, Superboy, I'll take care of this. Superboy's like, I'm not worried. And he uses his telekinetic powers to lift everyone up, all the guards, start stripping all their armor off of them and like putting them in intense pain. And the scientist is like, okay, before it was about instinct, this seems more like intentional torture, so maybe stop. And he's like, no, I'm just studying them and setting some limits. And then a hand reaches onto his shoulder and he's like, okay, noted. And Superboy just goes flying back into a wall and apparently like shuts down, like just turns off. We don't know who the hand is. I read this 4 times. I have no clue who that hand is. And it also doesn't really show that he's shut down. The only reason I know that he's shut down is because Red says it. Anyway, cut back to now. And the doctor who's taking him out to fight Teen Titans was, taking him out. And scientist Dr. Red was like, no, he's not prepared for reality. We need to run more tests in the virtual simulation stuff. And what's his name? Templar? Zaniel? I don't know. He's got like 5 names. I'm going to call him Templar. Templar's like, okay, well, we're taking him, so either get with the program or get out of the way. And then Rose comes up, Rose Wilson, and she's like, yeah, no, he's a killer. Just because you put that S on his chest doesn't mean all of a sudden he's a good guy. And so I'm going to go along and I'm going to make sure he doesn't screw this up. So apparently this isn't the Teen Titans mission. This is a mission of some genetic lab has gotten out of control. Everybody who was working with them on the inside is dead, and now there's just these superpowered freaks of nature inside. So Superboy's going to come in and, as a test, see if he can just take care of the problem. There's some banter with Rose where we see that the reason that Rose is brought in is because she's going to treat him like a target and not like a person. So that's somehow going to make it so that she can kill him. But anyway, they arrive. Superboy's like, look, just stay out of my way. I can't. I'm still in the process of figuring out my powers. I can't be responsible for your safety. And she's like, oh, I'm just here to keep you in line. You do you. And then we get the reveal that this place actually is... Yes, technically the story is true that it was taken over by the freaks and everyone inside is dead, but also it was kind of made to happen by Templar because he's a dick. So they arrive, and Superboy uses his tactile telekinesis to feel that the monsters are beneath them. And then the one pops up and grabs him. It's like some weird shark-looking thing, who apparently is an alien, I guess. He seems to think he's an alien. So, also, this whole time, Superboy's got this internal narration about, well, maybe I'm not so bad just because I kill. Rose is a killer. She doesn't seem so bad. She's still walking free, so maybe I can kill people and still be good. I'm like, this is an interesting narration. Rose tries firing off some shots, but they're not doing anything to the guy. So then Superboy just unleashes the telekinesis, blasts him through a wall, and then 2 more of them show up and start wailing on Superboy. The original one grabs Rose and tries to take care of her, but then as soon as it opens its mouth to talk, Rose just shoots it down the throat, which apparently is enough to hurt it. Meanwhile, like I said, Superboy is being wailed on. He genuinely doesn't know what's happening. He's in the middle of that whole, maybe I could be, ow, wait, that hurts, ow, stop, no. And then he's knocked unconscious by a giant metal door hitting him in the face. But as he's knocked unconscious, his power levels begin spiking, and his telekinesis just starts ripping everything apart. The helicopter that dropped him off manages to extract Rose, and Dr. Red was like, what are you doing? We can't leave Superboy down there. We have to go get him. And the helicopter was like, lady, I don't know what you're smoking, but there is no down there anymore. And last page reveals the entirety of this facility and all the ground is just being destroyed by his telekinetic ability, which apparently, because he's not conscious, it spikes because he's not actively controlling it. I guess that's the thing. It's not a bad issue. It doesn't jump around too much. It doesn't try to explain too much. It does everything fine with what it wants to do. I just don't particularly like what it wants to do. It's playing with some morally gray areas and stuff like that, and I get it. That's an interesting part to write, but it's just the banter between Rose and Superboy is the only enjoyable part in this. Everything else is you remember the movie Chronicle. I don't know if you remember that, but that you start off the beginning of that movie feeling bad for the kid who gets the powers, and then over the course of it you just get less and less feeling bad for him. That's how I feel this is on the track to go, and I don't want to not feel bad for Superboy, he's the hero here. I want to be able to care about him. So I hope it can turn that around. Overall, I'm going to give this 5.5. It's fine. Art's a little bit iffy at times, but overall it's good. But yeah, the writing is really just like, what? How do you want me to feel about Superboy? Because you're really making it seem like I shouldn't like him. So, yeah, 5.5. I hope it gets better, but I'm honestly not holding my breath. Green Lantern number 2, written by Geoff Johns, art by Doug Mahnke. We last left off, everything in Hal Jordan's life was falling apart, and Sinestro showed up with a green ring and said, hey, if you want your ring back, do everything I say. So, still everything's going wrong in Hal's life. This issue picks up immediately afterwards. Sinestro's just talking to Hal, and he's like, man, doesn't your life just suck? Everything is vacant now that you don't have a ring. And I do. And Hal just leaps after him, starts trying to attack him, rip the ring off his finger. Sinestro easily dispatches him because, he has a Green Lantern ring. And he's like, hey, Hal, I have a ring. If I wanted to, I could just think about it and instantly kill you. Like, that's just... I have that ability. Your life is in my hands. And then he starts monologuing, and he's like, look, how many governments does the Earth have? How many languages does the Earth have? Like, you're all so fractured and infighty and awful. Korrigar, my planet, one government, one language. We are united. But what have you done with this ring in order to help unite your world? You've made green airplanes. Whoop-de-doo. So here, and he makes a new ring, and he gives it to Hal and gives him power of Green Lantern. And he's like, I'm giving you an opportunity. Don't throw it away again. And Hal's like, noted. And he just blasts Sinestro with the ring. But it completely misses him, just bubbles around him. And he's like, okay, what's wrong with the ring? And Sinestro's like, I made it. Clearly nothing's wrong with it because I made it. I just made it so you couldn't actually hurt me. Also, you only have as much power as I say you do. And he just thinks it and takes away Green Lantern's ability to fly. So he's like, so you're going to work for me and do what I tell you to. And then immediately, Hal hears sirens. And he's like, trouble. And he flies off. And Sinestro just sighs and follows. There's a bridge that's collapsing. Something crashed down from the sky, a fiery fireball, and destroyed part of this bridge. Civilians are trying to rescue each other out of the cars, but, people are just falling. And then, as one car is about to fall off the edge, a green magnet comes in, catches the top of the car. One woman is still left plummeting, and Hal swoops in and grabs her, and then immediately starts flirting. She's like, you're Green Lantern. He's like, yeah, I guess I am. And then, as if on cue, Sinestro cuts the power to the ring and was like, dude, I just told you need to listen to what I tell you. And Hal's like, people are going to die, Sinestro. Come on, turn my ring back on. And Sinestro's like, no, pay attention. And he forces Hal to watch as he uses his ring and just solves everything. He fixes the bridge. He saves all the people. He does everything all at once. And Hal's like, okay, all right. I'm beginning to see a point here. Everyone thanks the Green Lantern that saved them, and they fly off. And Sinestro just starts explaining, you want to be the hero instead of being the protector. You want to, be seen helping the small guys instead of fixing the problems. That's what you need to do to be a Green Lantern. He's like, you're not a Green Lantern. You got this ring, but you are not a Green Lantern. And he's like, all right, whatever. Here's the thing that destroyed the bridge. It's coming up out of the water. Get ready to fight. And it pops out, and it's a yellow lantern named Gorgor, who's apparently a good tracker. And he's like, Sinestro, you betrayed our Corps. We're going to kill you because whoever kills you gets to lead the Green Lantern, or the Yellow Lantern Corps. Hal starts firing off shots at it, but in the end, Sinestro's like, I gave you one order, which was not to give in to your sadistic urges and to protect my goddamn planet, and you failed. So he just slaughters the Yellow Corps Lantern, and he's like, okay, see how that's what we're doing. You're going to help me unenslave my planet from my old Corps. And that's where we leave off. It's good. What am I supposed to say? It's good. It's very good. It's a nicely told issue. It really helps you dive into both the psychology of both Hal and Sinestro of like what both of them think being a Green Lantern means, and it really sets up a good moving point in the future of, Hal is basically forced to do whatever Sinestro wants if he wants to continue being a Green Lantern. So it's a battle of like, does he follow the person he hates just to get his life's dream? Like, it's a good setup, and I'm looking forward to where it goes. Art, fantastic throughout. When he blasts Sinestro, it's just this beautiful double-page spread. Absolutely gorgeous. Again, I think I mentioned this last time. One of the few issues I have is Hal, when he's not in his Green Lantern outfit, it's something about the eyes. I don't know what it is. Just something about the eyes. It just throws me off. It's a little bit too heavy on inks, I think. I don't know. But overall, fantastic issue. I'm gonna give it an 8. It's extremely well done. So yeah, looking forward to where issue 3 and on takes us, considering this is still part of Geoff Johns' saga. So yeah, Green Lantern number 2. Mr. Terrific number 2, written by Eric Wallace, art by Gianluca Gugliotta. We left last issue with Mr. Terrific getting a brain virus or something like that and turning on his earthquake machine, which is going to kill this senator that he was talking to. Picks up immediately afterwards, and like immediately Mr. Terrific is fighting off this brain virus, which I guess makes sense. Everyone's evacuating the building. Where the science guys are like, okay, so this is like a 13.5 scale earthquake, aka extinction level event. So, we're probably all going to die, but we should evacuate anyway. This blonde woman, who I completely forget her name, and Mr. Terrific, they're just like, they're together. Mr. Terrific's using his brain powers and also a T-sphere that he has to reboot the synapses in his brain. Okay. So once that's done, they go down into the basement where I guess the earthquake is, and there's just this giant energy portal tube thing, and Mr. Terrific's just trying to come up with something to do to stop it. He comes up with this idea of using ultrasonics to create a black hole, a sonic black hole that will absorb the vibrations and save everybody. It's all science mumbo jumbo. Like, they're just making up stuff. And something about liquid nitrogen, and I don't know. It works. They make up sonic black hole with liquid nitrogen, and they stop the earthquake from happening. Cut to a little bit later, and senators outside being interviewed. And it's like, is it true that Mr. Holt tried to kill you, Miss Senator? Will you be pressing charges? And he's like, yes, he did try to kill me. No, I won't be pressing charges because on my platform, we believe that every bit blah, blah, blah. Then they talk to Holt, and they're like, hey, so apparently like this happened to a bunch of people across the world, and they all exhibited that sociopathic mania that you just did, but they didn't get better. You did. And it's like, it's eating healthy, I guess. Ha 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 ha. Anyway, I got to deal with this. Cut to, it just says somewhere off the California coast, we get this blue alien-looking guy just saying like, all right, we're right on schedule. We're one step closer to the All-Mind, and then everyone will have to bow down to their intellectual god, me. Cut back to the next morning. Holt's on a call with his board of directors, and they're like, hey, look, you almost died and you don't really have an heir, which I don't understand why we're treating this like a royalty thing, but whatever. And he's like, yeah, and I don't want to have one yet, so either get with me or you lose all my tech. And they're like, okay, I guess we're with you, but oh, you, Michael Holt, you. He's talking to this girl, Alika, I think she was in the last issue, and she's just trying to be like, hey, look, you really haven't been the same since your wife died? And he's like, yeah, I can't imagine why that is. But he basically puts her down and sends her out packing. We get this conversation between one of the board members and I don't even know who, but it's a dude who went to MIT with Mr. Terrific, and he's like, oh, don't worry. Once these plans, the Circle Revolution buys out Holt Industry, you'll get everything you want, Donald. I don't know any of these people, man. Maybe I'm not paying attention, but I don't know them all. Anyway, Mr. Terrific, he's doing he's in his tea sanctuary. He's doing some tests on himself just to see what's up, and he sees there's like a spike in synapse function that allowed for like super intelligence, but he was already intelligent, so it just called like a level of sociopathy, which everyone else is also getting. He goes into he uses the ninth dimension to teleport to somewhere else. As he's going through the ninth dimension, some giant cosmic creatures like, oh, he didn't hear us. We have to find a way to reach out to him. It's the only way. I don't know. I have no clue what that's about. So then he arrives in Los Angeles, and he's like, so this is where my readings say that the next attack's going to be because of, what is it? The increase in airborne particulates. Whoever he or she is, the person, low-level radiation, blah, blah, blah. There's a kid who's like, Miss Terrific, you're my favorite hero. Look, I got this tattoo to match yours. Fake tattoo, but still. The villain shows up. He starts doing his thing to turn everybody crazy, but Miss Terrific launches some T-spheres, and he protects them. And he's like, oh, yes, I've come to stop you. I'm Mr. Terrific. And he's like, yeah, I'm bored now. So he just makes the thing stronger. And he says, my name's Brainstorm. I'm a villain. I'm here to make everybody into intellectual zombies to me or something like that. It's a little bit vague as of now. And then he basically tells all of the people who are subservient, like all the people in this LA mall, Ms. Terrific wants to make your lives worse. He's a vigilante. Go attack him. And last page is all the people are coming after to kill him. It's fine. It's a lot of techno mumbo jumbo. Like, it's like, okay, earthquakes go off of vibrations. What else is vibrations? Sound. So we're just going to use that as our solution. Sound is the... So it's like, okay, I can see where you're getting this stuff from. You're using real science as a platform, and then you're just going nuts with it. I'm not a huge fan of the art, honestly. It feels I don't even know how to say it. It almost feels like early 2000s, but it's not. There's something else there. I don't know. It's not my thing. Overall, I'm going to give this a 5.5. I'm confused most of the time. I think that's the biggest issue. Is I'm not entirely sure like what the whole thing with the dude on the board talking with the MIT guy, like what was that about? The whole thing with the blonde girl and Alika, because they're both interested in Holt in some way, but like one of them is given the time, the other one isn't. I'm just confused about like where things stand in relation to each other. Not even from an art perspective, just from a writing perspective. So no, 5.5. I mean, I didn't really expect anything more, so we'll hopefully get more in the next couple issues, but it's an uphill battle. Deathstroke number 2, written by Kyle Higgins, art by Joe Bennett. Last issue we left off with Deathstroke killing the team that he just worked with, saying that he has a perception issue, an image issue, and they need to work to change that. He's talking to his buddy Christoph, or his partner Christoph, I should say. And this issue will be super duper fast, because it is nothing but one extended fight scene. Like, honestly, it's already, by this point, just how long I've talked about it, I was already on page 7. It's so fast. Also, it's called The Carpocalypse. So, that's just the name of the issue. I love it. There's this bar. Dude shows up with a briefcase. He walks into the back room, where I guess is just a thing for hitmen to hang out in, or like superhero villains. I don't know. It's a bit confusing. His name's Mikkel. Deathstroke sees him. He's like, hey, take a seat. Let's catch up. So, you relayed the information to my guy about getting those nuclear secrets off of the plane, and instead was this thing, and he shows the briefcase again, which we still don't get to see inside. And he's like, all I'm hearing from you, Deathstroke, is that you didn't succeed in the mission. I had my doubts about you to begin with, so, what am I supposed to think? I think that you just failed, and you're trying to scare me into not coming after you. And he's like, cool. So tell me what I need to know, or I'm going to cut you in half. And he's like, oh, yeah, well, excuse me, show of hands in this bar filled with lowlives and Scum, who here did I hire to kill Deathstroke if he tried to do anything to me? And everybody stands up, and Deathstroke's like, that's it. And then it's just fight scene. He kills everybody, every single person in here. Mikkel manages to make his way out screaming. He runs out to his car, tells the driver to start the car, get to the airport. Deathstroke apparently predicted this, sets a bomb off that just flips over Mikkel's car. He gets out, makes a phone call, tells like, hey, I will pay whatever. It's not clear as to who it's who, but he's like, do you not understand? He's going to kill me. Send anyone and everyone you can. I will pay whatever they want. Another bomb goes off. Mikkel just barely survives. And then this giant, like, warship. I hesitate to say helicopter or airplane because it's got a little of both. So I'm just saying warship because it's got giant guns. And Deathstroke's like, all right, that's more like it. Fires off shots, killing a couple civilians, mind you. Some dudes on bikes show up and start coming after Deathstroke. He cuts off both their heads. This dude in, like, the best way I can describe it is Ironmonger or Warmonger from Iron Man armor shows up, and his name is Road Rage, and he's got like a car theme going on. Deathstroke just goes up to him, crashes a motorbike into him, then stabs him in the chest and sends him flying into where Mikkel is hiding. And then he like dings off of something, crashes into the warship, causes that whole thing to explode. And then one of the blades from the helicopter on the warship cuts Mikkel in half. Just at that moment, a news chopper arrives, sees Deathstroke standing there, and Deathstroke's like, see what happens when you cross me? Deathstroke, greatest killer of all time. You can come after me all you want, but this is just fun and games for me. And then he gets a call from Christoph, his partner, and he's like, what the hell was that? What did you do? And he's like, I fixed our perception issue. People think I'm badass again. So, yeah, he's like, okay, well, you killed Mikkel, so how are we supposed to know who's doing this dicking around with you? And he's like, he never had any info to begin with. We're going to have to call in an expert. And that's where we leave off. For what the book is, for what I think it's trying to do, I think this succeeds. Because it is nothing but just nonstop, madcap, over-the-top action. And I think that's what they want to do. I don't think it's supposed to be like... This book is not an introspection on like, oh, what makes Slade Wilson tick? No, this is just bonkers. But like I said, it was such a fast read. Like, and it was just everything. There's an explosion literally on every page. That should honestly just the quote across the top. There is an explosion on every page. If that's what you like, I don't think you're going to dislike this at all. Me personally, I think the art style's fine. I followed everything clearly enough, which is kind of hard for some madcap fight scenes to keep everything clear. There was one dude in the Hitman Lounge who's literally like, he's a full exoskeleton, but he's got a clear brain in a jar, and his jar is smashed and he's clearly dead. But I really wanted to know more about him. Maybe that's just me. I'm just trying to pad out time, honestly. Nah, it's fine. It's a fine read. I'm still interested in the mystery of what's in the briefcase, so I'm gonna give it a 6.5. It does have some flaws, but overall, it's a very solid read. And don't go into it expecting like, okay, well, what about the morality of Deathstroke? No, he's a killer. He's an asshole, but he's just gonna blow stuff up. If you want a book that's just going to blow stuff up, here you go. This is it. Grifter, number 2, written by Nathan Edmonson, art by Cafu. Last issue we left off with Grifter basically saying like, okay, you want me? Come and get me. Because, why not? This issue picks up a while later. It's a bit unclear. And Cole Cash is meeting up with his girlfriend / grifting buddy, Gretchen, and was like, hey, I'm so glad you came. They're at this diner. I'm so glad you came. I just want to explain, what happened. He's like, dude, you're a terrorist. Like, you are wanted everywhere. I cannot be seen with you. And she's like, okay, I was abducted by aliens. I woke up in the middle of the procedure. I now have like a radio antenna in my head that picks up all of their thoughts. And she's like, oh, and you're crazy too. Okay, cool. And he's like, no. I can prove it. Oh, sorry. So first he says, there's something I never told you. I was in the military. Black Ops stuff. And, you don't talk about the Black Ops stuff. And then for the audience's sake, he says, like, con artists and special ops are both guys that rely on intuition. And you don't ignore your intuition once it saves your ass. In walks a cop, and Cole immediately perks up, and he's like, okay, that cop is one of them. And he's like, she's like, no, it just looks like a cop. It's just a cop. But yeah, you should not be around cops, clearly. He's like, no, I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to prove it's one of them. He gets up, starts picking a fight with the cop, saying, like, you want me? Here I am. And the voices are saying, like, oh, not in front of the humans. Get him somewhere else, and then we'll destroy him. But then, Cole hears that, takes the fight to a whole nother level. Shots start being fired. He's just smashing, using all the... I do like... They keep on using things in, like, the area for these fights. So, like, he's thrown behind the counter of the diner. He hits the cop with a frying pan, then has one pot that's filled with flour and another pot that's on fire, and he uses it as just a makeshift firebomb. I really do like the ingenuity with the fight scenes. So, fire goes off. The cop is now, like, full alien mode. He lunges after... Cole, who just knocks him out with a punch. Gretchen, in the meanwhile, has grabbed the cop's gun and was like, okay, whatever's going on here, I want no part of it. I'm out. Stay away from me. Don't ever talk to me again. And she leaves. As actual real cops show up, and Cole comes in, he's like, oh, thank God you've arrived, officers. The killer's inside, and boom, just knocks the dude out, steals a police car, puts on the Grifter mask, which I don't know why he wasn't wearing it before, but whatever. Or why he has to wear it now. Cut to the Pentagon, where the guy who, in the end of the last issue, was talking to Cole's brother about getting him. Now they're looking over some footage from inside the airplane of, like, what happened. And when the one passenger attacked, there's, like, one frame where you just see this weird blue glow come out of her. And immediately the general's like, okay, this is now top secret. Make sure this never gets out. And I'm going to make some calls. And he makes a call to someone named Owen and was like, hey, we got another one. Cut to a New Orleans train station. Gretchen bumps into a dude stealing his wallet just to get some money. Cole calls her and says, like, nope, I meant it, bye. And she's on her way... She's on her way to Gotham City. When you want to get away from the craziness of life, you go to Gotham City. So Cole's driving the police car. He's outside of Baton Rouge. A sniper shoots out the tire on the police car. He flips it. It goes over a guardrail, down a little ravine. And it's Max. It's his brother, or maybe not really his brother, but I think it's his brother. And they're shooting at each other, and it comes down to a standoff after Cole runs out of bullets, and he's just like, I taught you everything you know how to shoot. You should have better aim than this. And he's like, well, you should have had better aim too. And Max pulls the trigger, but Cole managed to shoot the inside of the, like, barrel. I don't know gun terms. Inside of the, like, reloading section, so he's unable to fire the gun. And in the moment where he realizes this, Cole manages to get away, saying, oh, I will chase you, Cole. You know I will. Like I said, I really like the fight scene. The fight scene was fantastic. Just very ingenious. It's a very slow burn because, like, not a lot really happened in this issue. It's been another fight scene, and then we get confirmation the Pentagon knows something, and then the first tiny little confrontation between Cole and Max, but even that ends prematurely. So, no, it's a very slow burn. I'm interested in seeing how slow it does go, because for an action story, it can't go too slow. It needs a little bit. If it doesn't within the next issue give me something more, I'm going to start weaning off it. But for now, issue 2, it's fine. I'd give it a 7. It's good. Art is very well done. It's pretty stock standard, but it works. It's a good style for it, and I can't really point out any part where I'm like, that doesn't look right. It's all pretty good. So yeah, overall, Grifter number 2, a 7. Not something I expected to have an interest in, but hey, it has me now, not completely as a hostage. Suicide Squad number 2, written by Adam Glass, art by Federico Dallocchio and Andre Bresson. We left off last issue with Suicide Squad passing their hazing and being dropped off in a stadium that they have to kill 60,000 people in. We pick up right there at that stadium. Deadshot is our more or less POV character. He's taking the charge of team leader, and he's not happy with his team, made up of El Diablo, King Shark, a vigilante known as Black Spider, Harley Quinn, and they don't even list him here in the first page, but Voltaic. If you can guess why they don't list him, you don't win anything. So Waller pops on, and he's like, okay, here's your mission. There's a woman here named Callie Burns. She has the package. Get the package at any cost. Then this dude runs up and he's like, oh, sweet, the Justice League, you're here to help. Oh, you're not the Justice League, whatever. So we arrived at the stadium and everything was cool. And then all of a sudden, everyone on the field started attacking each other. And then everyone in the stadium started attacking each other. But they weren't just like attacking each other, man. They were like eating each other. And Deathstroke was like, all right, cool, thanks for the help. And he shoots the guy. El Diablo has a problem with that. And he's like, no, look, he's been bitten. Apparently there's a techno-organic virus, which is the issue. Everyone's infected with this thing that like turns them into half robots. So, they're okay to kill as civilians. From an editorial standpoint. Voltaic, he shocks the dude that was just shot in the head, because apparently the organic virus makes them mostly dead, but not completely dead, and you got to fry their circuits in order to finish them off. So Deadshot's like, all right, cool. Everybody, keep an eye out for the package. Take down everyone you can. Voltaic, I want you going around shocking everybody that even, like, halfway looks dead. And so then they just start fighting through people. El Diablo is like, I don't want to use my fire because that's my thing. That's my character arc. I don't like using my powers. It's possible that Deadshot gets a little bit of infected blood in his eye because the dude lifts up his mask and then he fires a shot and the blood just like that. It doesn't really come back, but I'm bringing it up just in case it does in a later issue. So Black Spider sneaks away. He's off looking for the actual package while everyone else is just fighting their way to survive. Harley and El Diablo have a thing where like they're trying to say like, oh no, we're not really bad, or maybe we are, but we can be better, and blah blah blah. King Shark's just enjoying eating people. Voltaic fires off a shot at one point when they start getting surrounded that just fries everybody in the area. And he's like, yep, nope, I'm good at what I do, but I can only do that like once every couple hours, so I'm going to have to recharge. So they keep fighting. Finally, El Diablo realizes that it's him or them, so he does let off a fire thing. His tattoos like recede as he does, so that's probably part of the thing. But they hear Black Spider, and they look up, and he's being carried as a hostage by the woman who has the package. And she's super infected by the virus, and she's like, oh, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to change. Oh, help me, kill me. This is me. No, change everybody. So the entire rest of the squad converges on this, and they're like, okay, drop the ninja, and then we'll talk. And it turns out that the package is that she's pregnant, and the baby is the package. So they're like, okay, well, we can't save her, but we also need to save the baby. So El Diablo's out. Voltaic's out. Deadshot tries to get a shot, but he's knocked away once she starts transforming into this giant squid beast. And finally, King Shark comes up from behind, chomps her head off, and, saves the day, I guess. So they eventually come up, they do a field C-section to get the baby out, and apparently the reason that it's so important is because the baby's not infected. The baby has a natural immunity, so they're going to use the baby to create a cure, a vaccine, something to the techno-organic virus. So Voltaic goes around, they just cleaning up shop at that point. Voltaic makes sure everyone's fried, and they're like, all right, cool. So how are they going to cover this up anyway? Deadshot's like, they're just going to blame some random supervillain and say that, they took hostages and then killed them anyway. And they're like, oh, well, they're going to need a body of the supervillain then, right? And they're like, yep. And then Deadshot shoots Voltaic because his powers are literally over every single person here. Deadshot calls for an extract from Waller, and she's like, nah, can't get you because federal agents are too close. Technically, checkmate agents are too close, so we can't get a chopper near there. So you got to scramble, keep a low profile, and we'll get you out when we can. It's like, isn't this bomb in our neck also on a timer? Which I was unfamiliar with, but apparently it is, and they have 3 hours before they need to get like a reset on their neck bomb. So that's where we're setting that up. They have 3 hours, stay alive until then. It's fine. It's very much like, because the first issue was so different, like, you still had the one dude who died that like wasn't important at all, but because it wasn't even like a real mission. This is like the real first mission, but it still follows the exact same beats of like, okay, and then one of the Suicide Squad members dies. Oh no. I also feel like it's completely wrapped up. Like, that's the other issue, is that this techno-organic virus thing, it's like, okay, they contained it to the stadium, they have the cure. That story's done. Now it's just this scramble with a profile. The only thing that's carrying over is the fact that they have a baby that they have to protect, which maybe that was the goal all along, but I don't know. It just feels pretty standalone. Not that that's counting against it, but we're 2 issues in now, and we have yet to really start what feels like an arc. So, yeah, maybe that's just me. Overall, I'm going to give it a 6.5. It's fine. I genuinely, they did get me with Voltaic. I didn't expect him to be killed because he was actually very useful in this entire thing. But looking back on it, it makes sense. So, yeah, 6.5. I mean, I'm going to read it. It's not like I'm just able to bail on books, but even if I could bail on books, I'd probably still give this one just a little bit longer. We'll see when it finally gets its wheels spinning. Legion Lost number 2, written by Fabian, Nicieza, art by Pete Woods. Left off last issue with their time machine being destroyed, their villain exploding, and a pathogen being released, infecting everything. So, downer issue. We pick up, it's about 3 days later, and there is a memorial for people who died in a hospital explosion. The one where the villain was at the beginning of the last issue. Legion is there. They're keeping an eye out. They have their eyes on one guy whose eyes are glowing red, which is kind of a bad sign. The entire issue's point of view is from Wildfire, aka dude who's energy in a suit. The wolf guy, I'm trying their names. I'm genuinely trying. It's not working out. Bryn, I think his name is. He stops the guy and he's like, hey, you look a lot like the doctor who we're having this memorial for. In fact, I would say you could even be his twin. And then, he lets down the acting. He's like, you should come with me because we need to deal with you. He freaks out, like, lets off an energy explosion. Some people with passerbys have their phones, and they record the interaction between the doctor and, his name is Doc Scanlon, by the way, and Lone Wolf. But as soon as they get a picture of any of the Legion members, they just straight up like vaporize their phones because there can't be any record of them being here in the past because that could mess with time, despite the fact that, I don't know, whatever. So they're like, all right, we have to see if anyone's been infected by the pathogen. This is what the pathogen is, by the way. It turns people... I'll just skip ahead to the end here. It was made by Alistar. He lost his sister due to some war, and as such, he went a little bit crazy and made this virus that infects and bonds people with alien DNA, so they get random other alien powers, and Doc Scanlan became a living ball of energy who's just trying to keep a human form. They give chase to him. Dawnstar, no, not Dawnstar. A Wildfire can really relate because it's literally his exact thing, and he's like, "Oh, I can help you. I can help you understand like how to control this." But he unleashes this huge energy blast on him, and Scanlan unleashes a huge energy blast and dissipates, and essentially we have to wait for his energy to recoalesce. They're trying to keep some sort of telepathic link on everybody, trying to look to see like, okay, can we find Alistar? Can we find our previous team members that also died in the explosion? But they're not picking up anything because there's just so much going on around them, especially with the virus coming out. We cut to Dawnstar. She's flying above everything. I guess that it's really polluted on Earth, and it's getting to her and getting in the way of her abilities. I'm still a little unclear on her abilities, but Wildfire comes up and is like, "Hey, I got a little bit of his energy on my glove. Can you take it and get like a reading and like find him?" And Dawnstar's like, "Yeah, of course I can. I'm freaking Dawnstar." They find him. He's reassumed human form back at his house, and they're like, "Look, we're going to give you the whole talk. We're going to tell you everything. We're from the future. Whole backstory about the virus, and it's here, and we're stuck here, and you have it, and you're bonded with an alien thing." And the doctor's like, "Okay, all right. Well, is this virus like an epidemic? Is it a pandemic? What's going on?" It's like, "No, it's pretty contained right now, but you know, it's designed to create a pandemic level of things." He's like, "You're really cool about this, Dr. Scanlan. Like, why are you so calm and collected about this?" He's like, "Well, you just said that I'm an alien, and I've been sitting here trying to keep my human intact, which I think is working against me. So I'm just going to lean all in on the alien thing." And Wildfire's like, "No, that's a bad idea. If you lose your sense of self..." And then a nuke basically goes off. His entire house explodes. The Legion's like, "Why are we always in the middle of these explosions in our telekinetic bubble that protects us?" But Scanlan's just flying above them. He's like, "This is incredible. So much power." And Wildfire's like, "Hey, look, I can help you. You gotta keep your humanity in track. Because, like, yes, this sucks, but you can't just give up your humanity." And he's like, "Oh yeah, watch this." And basically, he gives off too much energy. It gets absorbed into Wildfire, and he just disappears, like true death. Like, he's not coming back. He's gone, and he's just dissipated into the world. And it's all really a story for Wildfire of like, am I just trying to prove that I'm still human? Am I really human underneath all this, or am I really just energy that's dying to be escaped? And then we get a cut to Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, where there's something crawling out of a swamp. That's our hook. I did a bad job explaining it because I'm still just so lost on the characters, and they don't do anything to help me inform any of them. Like, this one was focused on Wildfire, and it gave me more onto his insight. So I know who Wildfire is now, but there's 7 of them, and I don't know the other ones. And I don't know what they want or what they do. I don't even... The leader, what's his name? Tyrock? Maybe? I don't know. I'm still just so confused by that stuff. And it's not doing anything to help alleviate that. Art-wise, it's fine. I didn't have any problems throughout. It all looks fine. Honestly, I think the weakest part of this is that it seems to want to give more of a central focus on the lone wolf guy, Bryn. Timberwolf. It wants to give more of a focus on him, and he's kind of coming off as like the Wolverine of the group, but he's just kind of uninteresting, like a lot less interesting than everyone else so far. But maybe that's just me. Overall, I'm gonna give this a 6. It's fine. It's okay. It's got its flaws. I really just want them to like really lay into, okay, here's what each member is. Just do that for one issue. Just one issue. And then I won't ask again. But until I manage to stick around with these people long enough that I'm going to remember them month to month, it's going to be lower scores because I can't be bothered to keep it all in mind. So yeah, it's a 6. I hope it gets better. Demon Knights number 2, written by Paul Cornell, art by Diogenes Neves. We last left off with our knights being attacked in a small little town by a group of dragons that are just straight up dinosaurs. So this issue picks up immediately on that. Everyone in the town is fleeing. There's fire everywhere, and these dragons are just attacking like crazy. Knights are all fighting it off, and Vandal Savage is having the time of his life. He's so happy that he gets to eat one of these creatures again. He hasn't had one for centuries. So the other ones are fighting. Xanadu and I forget his name, but Al-Jabir. They're both fighting off a couple, having some talks about like, we can use my sword and you can use your magic. And she's like, well, I'm out of magic. He's like, well, I'll see you in paradise. And then in comes Vandal Savage, who's just gleeful as a child in a candy shop, just bashing dragon skulls. We cut over to Shining Knight, and she says her name later. Hold on. Doopa-doopa-doo. Exoristos. They're fighting them off, just complaining how Shining Knight has too much armor, whereas Exoristos has practically none. Etrigan's facing down this really big one, but he sprouts some wings, and he also is talking about like, I should rhyme. Outside seems a terrible beast, but let's find out inside. And then he goes inside the monster's mouth and explodes it. And Vandal Savage standing there drenched in blood like, a feast! I made a rhyme. Wonderful. That's literally the words. Cut back to the questing queen's palace. He's like, they killed my dragons? Are you see? Who are these people? I was like, I don't know, but they got some old magic, some Merlin magic. So, yeah, they're going to be a problem. It's like, all right, well, bring in the bigger dragons. So these are heraldic dragons that they're trying to send in. We see that the village is pretty much in ruins. They're just like, oh, the horde is coming. We have to evacuate the town. They're going to come and kill us. And in comes this lady on a horse, and she's like, yes, the horde is coming. You should all flee. Farewell. And she rides away. And they're like, who the hell was that? It's like, oh, we call her Horsewoman. She's just here to warn us. We don't know much about her. That's it. That's all we get of her. I have no clue what that's about. Xanadu and Shining Knight talk to each other, and they're like, I figured the queen would come this way. They're all just talking to, general people around town, and some people want to leave, some people don't. Like the trading guild, I think it is. Yeah, the trading guild is like, no, let them come, and we'll just hide all the valuables and our women and children, and then we'll sell them some ale. Who doesn't love ale? And they're like, no, you got to go. Vandal Savage, he's cooking some meat, and he's like, you got to go. I've been around the questing queen. She's not interested in your ale. She will just straight up kill you. And at that point, Etrigan swoops in, picks up Xanadu, and is like, that's all I need here. And he just bounces. He just flies off with her in the arms. And it's like, Xanadu's just like, Etrigan, they would have taken our help. They would have been grateful. And it's like, yeah, but like, you want to fight dragons like that? I'm a demon. I'm evil. I'm not going to try to save everybody. Oh, okay, but that's a problem. And then we see these pterodactyl riders. Again, they're just pterodactyls. I don't know why they're saying dragons, but pterodactyl riders are flying at them. Then we follow up with Horsewoman. Is that her name? Horsewoman? I genuinely think it is just Horsewoman. Yep, just Horsewoman. It's clever naming. As she's trying to get through a pass, she sees, literally, I'm not making this up, 3 dragons. Like old school looking dragons, but they're not dragons. They're actually giant mech suits that are being piloted by multiple men. This book is great. Al-Jabir, he's using a telescope to see further away, like what's going on, but he wants to keep it a secret because I guess it's new tech. I thought telescopes were older than that, but I guess not. There's an explosion. Everyone's just kind of on their asses for a second. They realize that there are more magic and dragons coming their way, and they all have to team up in order to face off. Etrigan and Xanadu come back into the fight. They're like, yeah, sorry, we brought the fight to you. Shining Knight runs off, gets a Pegasus, and is ready to fly off for a noble death. He takes out, and I'm saying he, but it really is up for debate here as to whether it's he, she, they. I'm saying he just because that's the one they've said at the beginning, but I guess I'll go they. So they're swinging their sword, knocking people off their pterodactyls. Xanadu's out of magic. Etrigan's just spewing some fire at pterodactyls. Quest and Queen seems that once again they're breaking through their forces. So it's like, okay, what's stopping us from just going in there and destroying the place? And it's like, well, there's a magical shield. All right, can you stop the magical shield? It's like, well, yeah, technically. Cool. Fireball that whole damn town. So the final page is this massive fireball in the sky descending upon the town with everyone just looking on it. And Vandal Savage still enjoying a leg of meat. I love the humor in this book. I really do. It's fantastic. I cannot speak more highly of how it's done. It's still in the setup phases. It's still setting up the team. Like, for instance, Horsewoman. Okay. I'm still learning some of the names as well, but it is getting there. I'm getting the personality of each of the characters, doing a very good job with that. Art-wise, it's very good. There's a couple of times any like background characters kind of just blend in with each other. But all the main characters, they definitely stand out well enough that I can tell who's who. So no, overall, I'm going to give this one a 7.5. Very good. Very worth a read. It's only getting better as time goes on. That being said, I don't know what I read in the last issue, but it's getting good. It's very much getting good. And I'm looking forward to seeing where this one in particular is going to end up. Frankenstein, Agent of S.H.A.D.E. number 2, written by Jeff Lemire, art by Alberto Ponticelli. Last left, Frankenstein had just uncovered a cellar full of children and an old woman who's fending off Frankenstein with a cross. We pick up right there where we left off. And the old woman, as it turns out, may have been using these children as payment to the monsters in some nice... They're sacrifice, human sacrifice. So, Frankenstein, not too happy with that. Not happy hearing that these children were a monthly sacrifice to these monsters that are attacking. And he bitch slaps Granny. And he even makes the comment that Frankenstein's vengeance does not discriminate on the basis of age. Frankenstein makes a call to Father Time and Ray Palmer, and he's like, hey, we got kids, we need an evacuation for them. And they're like, okay, cool. By the way, we discovered that monsters are coming from this lake outside of town called Bone Lake. We're going to send you there to deal with it. So they all hop in a chopper and make their way over there. And apparently there's a portal at the bottom of the lake that leads to what Ray Palmer calls dead space, which is a pocket dimension made of the same strange dark material we find between atoms, which I'm pretty sure is just vacuum, but whatever. So they get to the lake, they set up a perimeter. The vampire dude, the mummy, and the werewolf all are keeping watch, whereas Frankenstein and the fish lady dive in to the bottom of the lake to deal with the portal, or at least see what's up. And then we get this flashback explanation as to who the fish lady was. She was expecting mother, she had a husband, baby was born, but it died very soon afterwards. Her husband left, and she devoted herself solely to her work, and she tried developing essentially her new children which were genetically modified to survive in the harsh world that her original child did not. But she she pushed too much like language and she forced too much on them, and they weren't ever able to deal with their emotions properly because they like advanced aged. So she just made a bunch of monstrous psychopaths. So she convinced S.H.A.D.E not to murder all of her new children, so they just got locked up inside of a tiny jail. And then she's like, all right, so for my next batch, I'm just going to start with adults because they already know how to deal with emotions. And I'm going to do the same thing to myself too because, hey, why not? So that's why she became a fish lady, and the rest of the monster group was there. So anyway, they reached the bottom of the lake, and there is just an entire, I don't even know how to, swath, a legion of children's skulls down at the bottom of this ocean. As it turns out, this portal has been open for generations, and the townspeople have been sacrificing to it on a monthly basis for hundreds of years. So Frankenstein, not too happy with this, but he's going to have to cut it short because demons have appeared out of the portal. They start to fight. Fish Lady doesn't really know how to fight, but she's managing to hold her own, and she's impressing Frankenstein while doing it. Finally, they defeat the monsters, and Frankenstein rips out one of their brains so that it can be scanned by the zombie, aka the Seer of Mental Brain Image Energy. I love the stretching for the acronyms. It really helps. So they scanned this monster's brain, and they discovered that this was actually just like Earth was just an outpost while they were, hopping between different worlds trying to find one that was good for invasion because their own planet was dying. And as soon as it opened up and demons started coming out, the townspeople just went with human sacrifice. Like the aliens didn't request it. They just figured it's what they wanted, and they started sacrificing. And the alien demon things never bothered to stop them because they're just assholes. So apparently their planet is actually like super dead now. And so they're invading Earth because they need a new planet. And when Lady Frankenstein came to stop them, she got dragged through the portal. And now she's on their planet, their dead planet. So, okay, they've sorted out and they realize there's only one option. They have to go through the portal, and they have to go there, destroy the planet, and get Lady Frankenstein back. They get in this ship that's made for them called the Egg, and they hop on through the portal. They say it's roughly Earth equivalent in atmosphere. It's 2 times Earth gravity. And the surface is organic, but when they arrive, they see nothing but an ocean of monsters all ready to attack them. And yet close by to them, on a pile of corpses, still fighting them off, is Lady Frankenstein, who just says, "What took you so long?" I like it. I do. I really do. It's a good issue. It's definitely got better than the first issue, because if I remember correctly, the first issue just took so long explaining every single thing of how S.H.A.D.E works. And I just... Oh, God, that was getting old so quick. This one, it does take, like, a little time to... it says, like, oh, what is the zombie? And it brings up, like, okay, this thing. But that's more of just, like, okay, here's the editor's note of what zombie stands for. It's not, like, breaking down the entire history of it. So, overall, writing-wise in this one, it's a lot better paced. Something I didn't mention was that the werewolf is apparently, like, really trying to prove himself, and he doesn't like that he's having to sit on the back lines and not have a chance to prove himself. To which I say, dude, it's issue 2. Like, calm down. The monsters look great. All the art really suits the story. I really like... I like how it hasn't quite figured out what it's doing yet, and I know that sounds weird, but like the first issue was like, okay, we're going to this town that's affected with monsters, and then the second issue ends with, okay, we're going to a monster planet. Like, I like it's keeping you on edge of where it's going. It just really works for the story. So overall, I'm gonna give this one a 7. I think it's solid. It's good. I think it's worth it checking out at this point, but I'm gonna have to wait until the arc is finished until I really make that conclusion. But as for now, yeah, Frankenstein Agents of S.H.A.D E 7. Resurrection Man number 2, written by Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, art by Fernando Dagnino. We last left off on like 8 different cliffhangers, but the only one that matters is there were 2 women who were very overtly sexual that were taking hostages, and by hostages I mean killing people, trying to find Resurrection Man. And then we pick up in this issue where Mitch is alive again, as I think he died towards the end of the last issue, and he's made his way to a retirement home. He doesn't know why, he just feels he has to go there. He goes in and he gives what he believes is his real name, Mitch Shelley. And as he's talking to this woman, she's like, "Oh yeah, Shelley, your father was here. He passed away like a year ago. We tried to contact you. Funeral was prepaid for, but yeah, some of his stuff is still in his room, unclaimed if you want." So he's sitting there in his father's old room. No memory of the guy, no memory of himself either, and he's just trying to figure out what happened. His father's neighbor in the retirement home comes in. His name is Daryl Roth, and he's like, "Oh, hey, yeah, I remember when you brought him in. Me and him talked for a bit. You're on some sort of hush-hush governmental research." And he's like, "Daryl, hi. I need you to tell me everything you knew about me and my father." Then we get a quick cutaway to an angel, I think. Basically, she gets a phone call. It says, like, "Oh, where is he? Portland? Cool, I'm on it." And then she flies away with angel wings and surrounded by doves. So, yeah, her name is Serial. Anyway, back in the retirement home, Preston was a scientist. I think they said he worked for the FDA, whereas Mitch did really hush-hush government stuff. Like, he can't... Even Daryl has no clue what he did. It was just non-disclosure research stuff. But his father was proud of him, is what Daryl says. And Mitch makes up the story of, "Hey, so I've had really bad head trauma recently, and I can't remember, like, anything. So if you could just fill me in on what you can remember." And he's like, "Well, I mean, we could just go online. I'm sure we could come up with something." And Mitch is like, "Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, let's do that." So they're heading back to the guy's room. And one of the orderlies is like, "Hey, just a heads up, don't let him get too far. Like, he's good, he's a good dude, but he's got a little bit of the onset, if you know what I mean." And he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, don't worry, we'll be fine." So he goes and sits down, and Mitch asks him, "So, hey, you're pretty good with the computer. What did you do for a living?" And he's like, "Me? Oh, I was a supervillain. Yeah, Daryl Roth. I was the transhuman back in the day." And Mitch was like, "Okay. Yeah. Oh, no." Cut to a motel. The 2 women who were killing people in the last issue, they're just sitting around shooting the shit. Probably actually shooting shit. And at one point, the one girl gets a phone call that Mitch Shelley's name was typed into a search bar somewhere. And so they get all their guns together, get all their stuff, and then call for a teleport to Portland. Someone on the other line picks up, says that they are known as the Body Doubles. So I'm going to call them that from now on, the Body Doubles. And their Matter Hammer is cycling, which I guess is their teleportation method. I don't know. They're throwing in a lot right now. So anyway, they teleport into Portland. It makes a loud thunder noise. Mitch feels like something's wrong, so he goes out to investigate. He sees the 2 women who call him by his name. They're like, "Mitch, Shelley, it's been ages. Did you miss us?" And he's like, "I don't know who you are, but I feel like you want to kill me." And so they unleash fire upon him, and he still has his water powers that he picked up at the end of last issue. So the bullets don't really do anything to him. He just turns into a puddle on the ground. Then he starts forming shapes and starts knocking the crap out of them. One of the girls realizes that, they're going to have to take him out in his water form if they want to deal with it. So they take a lamp and electrocute him, which seems to take him out, but he's still just like a puddle. So it's a bit hard to get him scooped up, but they're willing to sit around and wait until he resurrects with his new power. Then we cut to what I can only assume is like hell, where Deadman is lying in a chalk outline of himself, and he looks around, and there's just like a sky full of demons and a landscape where it's nothing but chalk outlines, presumably of himself. And that's where we leave off at. I really like the mystery in this. I think I said that last time, is that I'm a sucker for like some biblical stuff and mysteries and whatnot. They're doing a really good job of setting up the mystery, and it's really just the biggest mystery of all. Like, who the hell are we dealing with here? And on all fronts, who are the bad guys? Who are the good guys? The one dude who claims he was the supervillain, was he? Are we going to have to deal with him too? It's just a never-ending string of questions. And the fact that we're still so early on, I don't care that they're not being answered. Like, if we get to, like, issue 7 or 8 and we're still only getting questions with no answers, I might get a little peeved. But as it stands, it's still in the setup phase, and I really enjoy it. The big question at the end here is, where the hell is Mitch? And I'm interested. I'm super interested. It has me hooked. As for the actual quality of it, art's fine. I have absolutely no qualms with anything in the art. Writing, good. I think sometimes it might get a little bit wordy for some people, but for me personally, I don't particularly mind it. It's doing what it needs to. So I'm going to give this one a 7.5. Very good. Definitely check it out. Surprisingly, I didn't think Resurrection Man would ever be something I say that about, but yes. 7.5. Super solid book, and I'm never going to stop being surprised by that. My Greatest Adventure, number 1. It's an anthology book. It wasn't collected in trade. I have to deal with the floppy issues. Also, I can't really give a writer and artist up front because it's a bunch of different stories. We have 3 different stories, actually. One following Robot Man, one following Garbage Man, and one following Tanga. I'm familiar with Robot Man from Doom Patrol. I have no clue who the other 2 are. But we got to move somewhat quick through this because it is 3 separate stories. So, open up with Robot Man's story called Uncanny Valley. It's by Matt Cano writing and Scott Collins on art. And it opens up with Robot Man. He is taking on an unmanned battleship that's trying to start, as he calls it, Bay of Pigs Part 2 off the coast of California. He takes down some missiles, drops it into the sea, and some people get some pictures of him, but he's able to scrub the internet and remove all those pictures from online. He goes back to his base, which is called the Uncanny Valley. That's the locals' nicknames, but he gets the appeal of it. I guess they kind of run a detective agency or an adventure agency, but he's got a partner there who's named Maddie, I believe. And she's basically taken on a case of some dude went missing named Dr. Turing, and she's able to feel things, like feel how people are feeling. It's kind of vague so far. So basically she's like, hey, we got a new case, mainly because she's lying about something and she's hiding her thoughts from me somehow. And Robot Man's like, can you feel my thoughts? And he's like, no, you're a robot. And he's like, yes, but I was a man. And he flies off to the last known place, which was Havana, Cuba. And when he arrives at a busy restaurant, and he feels inside, and he's like, wait a minute, busy restaurant, but there's no like pheromones or anything. And he goes down, and everybody there is a zombie. And he kind of just like goes off on this little mental tangent about like how he used to be a thrill seeker back when he was a man. And as he's doing so, his arms and legs get ripped off, and he finally snaps back, and he's like, oh, right, I'm in danger. And that's where we end that part of the issue. Quick rating for that, 5.5. Art is kind of weird. It has some weird backdrop of it's all technological, like instead of white space, it's just green with a bunch of lines and dots. It's a bit distracting at times. Writing-wise, it feels like his narration wasn't even following the story. It just felt like something else entirely. But I'm interested in the zombie bit, so there's something. Next up, we have the Garbage Man story. Garbage Man Returns, story and pencils by Aaron Lopresti. We open up and Garbage Man is drowning, I guess. We have flashback. His wife wants a divorce because he's too wrapped up in his work. His name is Richard, by the way. Cut back to present day. There's a woman who, I guess, worked with him when he was alive, and she gets a note from a vagrant who says Garbage Man is alive, trust no one, he will be in touch. She's being watched by her bosses from a second-story window, who are like, she doesn't seem to know anything about Garbage Man, but keep an eye on her, because if she does, we'll have to take her out. Then we see who she is. She was the assistant to, or the secretary to Richard back while he was actually human. He screwed up his marriage for this account, or this thing he's working on called the Titan account. And he gives his secretary a necklace for being a friend. They make it very clear and upfront that they're just friends. I don't know how much that's true, but they really seem to want to point to it. Though she's looking at pictures of them hanging out when she gets home that night, and she's like, oh my god, you can't still be alive. So it seems like she wants to be more than friends. Anyway, Garbage Man washes up on the sewer shores of Gotham City. He manages to find a homeless, I don't even know, alley, like just a group of homeless people all hanging out in an alley. And one of the guys named the Reverend, he approaches the Reverend and was like, hey, Reverend, I've decided to take you up on your offer. What does that mean? What does it do? I don't know. But Garbage Man. For that one, I'm going to give that one a 5.5. It's fine. The art is very well done. It looks very good. But, like, you've done nothing to get me interested in Garbage Man yet. And you really got to push hard to get me interested in Garbage Man. And then we have, I don't even know what this is. It's Kevin Maguire, story and art. Tanga. It's called Restrained is the story name. And we open up with this purple girl named Tanga, who's flying about on this alien planet. And she's like, I'm just going to go visit the king. It's no big deal. Everybody on this planet loves me. I'm such a cool person. And she arrives, and then the guards start shooting at her. But, like, it's not doing anything because she has superpowers. Then there's this giant floating brown head. And I say floating, I mean like rocket powered. It has like jets beneath it. And he's like, oh, hey, there you are. I was kind of hoping the king could come out because a lot of people think that I may have killed him. And it's like, no, he's still resting. Don't worry, though. He's good. If you're worried, though, maybe just tell me what the source of your powers are. And he's like, Tanga's like, are you kidding me right now? And then the king shows up. And he's, like, totally different from everyone else we've seen. He wears this blue mask, and he's like, oh, yes, hello, I thought you would come here. What do you want from me, Tanga? And Tanga's like, I want you to do your job and be a king to these people. He's like, I'll consider it if you give me a kiss. I'm not kidding. This is such a weird story. And she's like, no, I'm not going to kiss you. What? Just do your job. And he's like, you're fighting against the king? You shouldn't be doing that. It's like, I am a freaking god on this planet, dude. I am invincible. What are you talking about? And he's like, we're going to fight someday, Tanga. Luckily or unluckily, at that point, a giant monster shows up elsewhere on the planet, and Tanga has to go take care of it. But the king is like, you will serve me. Mark my words. I will break your spirit. And Tanga literally quoted here, bring it, bitch. And then flies off to take care of the giant monster. It's a giant phoenix-looking bird thing. Tanga comes up and she's like, hey, I don't want to hurt you, but you're hurting people, and I know you can't understand me. And then the bird blasts her with this fire, and he's like, okay, well, now I got to take you down. But Tanga's paralyzed and can't move. And she's forced to just float there and watch as the bird thing devours the people on this planet. And the people think that she has abandoned them. And then the issue just ends. I have no clue what's happening here. I'm not familiar with Tanga at all, and this is the most confusing thing I've read this entire show. I'm giving this a 4 just because I don't know what's happening. It's not like it's bad in any way, and maybe we'll get explanations later on, but like, I have no clue at all. Genuinely confused here. The art's fine. I guess I like the characterization, but honestly, it just feels like a fever dream. So yeah, My Greatest Adventure, I guess we'll break it down to those 3 segments each time. What the hell is a Tanga? The Shade, #1, written by James Robinson, art by Cully Hamner. I don't know anything about the S.H.A.D E. I think I mentioned that last week. But I did just finish reading the back of this trade, and it says that the S.H.A.D E returns from Starman, which is a series I am vaguely aware exists. So hopefully this does at least a decent job introducing what in the hell a S.H.A.D E is. What I have gathered is that the S.H.A.D E's name is Richard Swift. He has a very Shakespearean, old-timey persona. He puts on a whole lot of flair, even in his just private life. And he might have darkness powers. So this issue opens up with him and a blue guy with orange hair with a power gem in his chest named Michael or Mikal, Mikaal. I don't know. They're just drinking tea, and they're just talking, just shooting the shit. And they're like, yes, October. It makes me feel so melancholy because it was the month of my creation, and therefore something. And Mikal's talking about like, do you think that people like us, people in our line of work, could ever find love, could ever have children? And S.H.A.D.E's like, oh my, what brought on this wave of... And oh my god, they just keep talking like that the whole way through. But basically they just have a conversation about how, can they actually ever find a happy life just doing normal things, or if they have to always have their own big bombastic stuff. The whole time this is going on, it has cutaways to a man running and being chased by other men with guns, and he has a gun. And then finally, at the end of this conversation, as they go downstairs to get some more tea, we see who it is. It is a private detective who's being chased off of rooftops. His name is William Von Hammer, and he is being chased by a cadre of Belgian assassins known as Les Diaboliques, who have like jetpacks and crazy guns and stuff like that. And they're trying to kill him. He doesn't know why, but he does know that they are the ones who will be dying tonight. He shoots one down and tries to get a name before the guy's jetpack explodes. The dude gives half a name of Cald, C-A-L-D, before explosion. And Von Hammer's first thought is that he has to warn the S.H.A.D E. Cut back to the S.H.A.D E. He's cuddled up in bed with a lover of his named Hope O'Dare, who's a police officer. They just talk for a little bit about how their relationship is and how S.H.A.D E is already kind of preparing for the breakup, despite the fact that it hasn't happened and isn't going to happen. And Hope is just telling him, like, you were a criminal, and I don't want you to go back to a life of crime, but maybe you need to find something that makes you happy in the way of another adventure. So go out and find an adventure. So she hops in the cab to go do some work. They kiss goodbye, and he thinks, all right, well, Opal City, which is, I guess, where all this is set. I will find my adventure and see what I could possibly come across. And almost immediately, he comes across Deathstroke, who's just standing there with a giant-ass sword. And Shade's like, oh, is this a social call? Do you want me to join your team? No, you're not the social type. Guess you're here to kill me. Well, unfortunately, that's not going to happen. They start having a fight. S.H.A.D E uses his darkness powers, and he breaks Deathstroke. And I mean breaks because it's actually a robot. The real Deathstroke comes out of hiding and chops off S.H.A.D E's hands. He doesn't seem to be that perturbed by it, though, so I guess maybe that's just normal for him. But Deathstroke just keeps going, slashes him in the chest, and then cuts off his head while saying that it's nothing personal. And so the issue ends with S.H.A.D E completely butchered, beheaded, and left for dead in this park as Deathstroke walks away. I wish I knew what was happening. It does a good job of developing who S.H.A.D E is as a person, his sort of personality and stuff like that. I have no clue what his powers are. I have no clue why people want other people dead. I have no idea who that private detective was. Maybe they're supposed to be mysteries, but I honestly get the feeling that I'm just missing out on the entirety of Starman, which isn't what an issue 1 should really do, but maybe it won't be all that important. I'm not going to judge it too harshly based off of that. It was still an interesting story. I was still intrigued by what they were talking about. It had a very Sandman-esque feel to it the whole time. just a sort of gothic feel, which of course comes from his personality. I'm in the art department. It's fine. It feels pretty stock standard for DC. Maybe a bit heavier lines, a bit more Vertigo influence, but it's still pretty stock standard superhero fare. All in all, I'm gonna give this one a 6.5, just because I'm not sure what I'm expecting yet. If this is a sequel, if this is something that I needed to know Starman going into, then clearly we're going to have problems for 12 issues. But I'm hoping that they can do... This is just like the draw you in issue, the whole like, wow, S.H.A.D.E is already dead in the book called the S.H.A.D.E. I'm hoping that's what this is, and the initial 2 will give you more answers. I'm willing to hold off judgment until then, but because I have to give a rating, 6.5, it's fine, it's good. I'm sure people who know Starman just absolutely love it, but I don't know Starman, so it gets a 6.5. And that's it. That is all the comic books that came out this week in October 12th, 2011. All 15 of them. I gotta tell you, I think 15 might be my limit. 15 is the point where I'm like, okay, this is a bit ridiculous. I mean, the whole idea in general is ridiculous, but 15 of them, that's pushing it. But luckily, next week, we don't have 15 comics. We don't even have 14 comics. We are back down to 13 comics. No new miniseries coming out, just all number 2s. So let's take a look at what we've got. Next week, October 19th, 2011, held such fantastical comics as Batman, Birds of Prey, Catwoman, Nightwing, Red Hood and the Outlaws, Supergirl, Green Lantern Corps, Captain Atom, DC Universe Presents, Justice League, Wonder Woman, Blue Beetle, and Legion of Superheroes, all issues number 2. We're getting Justice League back. It feels like forever. It has been forever. It's been the entire length of this show. I can't understand why they would lead off the entire initiative with Justice League and then push the second issue to a week 3. That seems so counterintuitive, but I'm sure they had their stupid reasons up in editorial. If you know their stupid reasons, or you had any opinions on the comics I've read today, the comics I'm reading next week, or any comic I'm ever going to read ever, go ahead and hit me up on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast. That is at DC Comics Podcast, all one word. Use the hashtag New52 because it is never too early to be a walking self-parody. Additionally, we have a Patreon that you can subscribe to for bonus content, not from me, but from other people. That is Mild Fuzz TV on patreon.com. That is Mild Fuzz TV. I have to pay into it, so do you, and for just $1 a month, you too can put a roof over the head of somebody who has no idea what a budget is and how it can possibly apply to comic books. But yeah, that's it. That's the episode 6. And I gotta tell you, when I tweet this one out, I expect Jeff Lemire to like this tweet. From now on, every tweet I put out has to be liked by a blue check-marked comic creator. I will not stand for anything less. I have now been spoiled and I want more. I guess we'll see. But until then, try to remember, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.